I'm Catherine, and I was raised in a family that could be described as typical of the middle class. My mother exercised strict control over our family, while my father, an entrepreneur, was constantly preoccupied with his business. My mother considered my elder sister to be the ideal daughter, and she was. I was taught at an early age that in our household, Mom's word was law. I had to participate in anything Lisa did. Whatever Mom chose, it was definitive. Mom would always find a way to have her way, and Dad would only occasionally try to step in. Dad was not home very often. The control just became more pronounced as I got older. It appeared like I had complete control over every choice I made, including what to wear and who to hang out with. Lisa, on the other hand, thrived with Mom's support. She was the ideal child, always meeting expectations without fail. Lisa began dating Richard, the son of a prominent local businessman, during her senior year of high school. Mom was ecstatic. Did you see how he looked at her? After their first dinner together, Mom gushed, "Mark my words, we'll be planning a wedding before you know it." I rolled my eyes and said nothing. By now, in my sophomore year, I'd figured out that fighting with Mom just made things worse. As expected, Lisa and Richard's romance developed swiftly. They were engaged by the time I was a senior, and Mom was overjoyed. "Now, Catherine," she uttered one evening, her eyes shining with a fearsome expression, "we must begin considering your future as well. Lisa has accomplished so much for herself, and you look amazing. We can definitely locate you a decent young man from a respectable background." My stomach twisted. "I haven't even graduated from high school yet, Mom. Can't I put my college studies first?" Her hand was waved off dismissively. "Of course, going to college is vital, but so is making sure of your future. Richard, you know, is only a few years older than his cousin. He assists in managing the family company. I believe that the two of you would get along great." And like that, once more my destiny was being predetermined. I turned to Dad for support, but all he could muster was a meek smile before withdrawing into his study. As usual, I was on my own, exactly as Mom had planned. I ended myself out on a date with James, Richard's cousin. I'll give him that he was attractive, but there was something strange about him right away. "So, Catherine," James remarked, reclining in his seat at the fancy eatery he had picked, "I understand you're about to start college. What do you think you'll study?" He interrupted me just as I was about to respond. "You say business? It's the wise decision. When you become a member of our family, you'll need to comprehend how things operate." I blinked in surprise. "Actually, I was thinking about—" "Believe me," he cut in once more. "Business is the way to go. I'll speak with my alma mater's admissions office. They have a duty to me." And so it transpired. James spoke. I paid attention. Any effort I made to express my own views was quickly ignored. By night's end, I was experiencing suffocation. I had my doubts, but Mom and Lisa were thrilled. "He's perfect for you." When I got home, Lisa let out a squeal. "Have you seen his timepiece? That probably cost more in one go than Dad gets paid in a month." I suppressed a grin so as not to break their illusion. But as the weeks passed and James and I kept going on dates, I started to feel uneasy. He would constantly advise me on what to do, what to wear, and how to behave. It was worse than having a second mother. I'd had enough one evening, following a particularly oppressive date in which James had arranged our next 3 trips without consulting me. A day later, I gave him a call. My heart was racing as I continued. "James, I think we need to talk." "Sure, babe, what's up?" I became irritated with his carefree tone. I inhaled deeply. "This isn't working out, in my opinion, although you're a wonderful man." "Whoa, hold on," he interrupted. "I placed an order for you last night. Is this why? I know what's best, like I said. You'll come to value it." "No, James, it goes beyond that. We just don't seem like a good fit." I wish to end the relationship." A protracted silence ensued. His voice was icy when he spoke once more. "Catherine, you're committing an error. There isn't anyone better than me. Consider your future and your family. Avoid being foolish." With trembling hands, I hung up. I had completed it. I had managed to break free. However, my solace was fleeting. When Mom learned, everything fell apart. She said, "What were you thinking? James is exactly what you need. Do you wish to get isolated? Do you wish to bring such humiliation onto this family?" I refused to back down, although the strain was tremendous. Mom and Lisa would tag team me day after day, weakening my willpower. They would plan accidental meetings with James so that when he came to visit Mom, we would be alone. It was taxing, this never-ending assault, and every day I felt my resolve eroding. At last, exhausted from the never-ending strain, I gave up. I said in a hollow voice, "Fine," to Mom. "I'll give James another chance." My stomach turned at the triumphant expression on her face, but I was too exhausted to continue fighting. I started to go through the motions of the relationship that everyone desired for me, accepting James's courting once more. Lisa and Mom were ecstatic. During the nights, I would hear them enthusiastically making plans for the future and talking about how they would run the brothers' business after James and I got married. They talked out loud about the wealth and business that would soon be at their disposal. Lisa decided to organize my whole profession, as if having complete control over my romantic life wasn't enough. She stormed into my room one evening, enthusiasm shining in her eyes. "Catherine, I think I have everything figured out," she declared. "You have the ideal job in Richard and James's company. You are going to lead PR. You are attending Hillside Business College for that reason. I've chosen your classes already." My objections were ignored. I was studying courses I had no interest in at Hillside before I realized it. Every day was difficult, and with every lesson, I felt like my spirit was fading a little bit. I reached my breaking point after an especially demanding week. I told Dad everything over the phone. He listened, which surprised and relieved me. At last, he remarked, "Catherine, this is your life. It's time for a change if you're not happy. I will stand behind you no matter what you decide." I made my getaway with Dad's approval and financial assistance. I submitted an application to a college in a different city that had majors in which I was actually interested. I packed my things as soon as I was accepted, and I never looked back. I felt there was still something I needed to do after settling into my new location. I wrote James a note with trembling hands. "I'm sorry, James, but I'm at the end of my rope. I don't want to see you again, and I don't love you. Please honor my choice." I sent it, thinking he would get it. His response arrived swiftly, and as I read it, my heart fell. "Catherine, your reasoning is distorted. I'm going to speak with Lisa and your mother. They'll jolt you into reality. You're staying put, sweetie. Our relationship is meant to be." I was feeling ill. They were trying to control me from miles away. After a few months, I was thriving in my new surroundings. I felt like myself for the first time in years, made friends, and did well in my classes. Then I ran into him, Tom, a graduate's brother, at a friend's graduation celebration. He was amusing, friendly, and most of all, attentive to what I had to say. As we began dating, I was enamored. This was real love, all-consuming, not the fake attachment I'd had for James. A year later, Tom asked me out, and I said yes right away. I picked up the phone and called my folks. When they picked me up, I said, "Mom, Dad, I'm coming home for a visit and I'm bringing my fiancé." There was an unbearable quiet on the other end. When we arrived at my parents' house, Dad greeted us warmly, genuine happiness shining in his eyes. Mom and Lisa, however, were cold and aloof. At dinner, The interrogation began. "So, Tom," Mom said, her voice sickly sweet, "what position do you hold in your company?" Tom looked confused. "Oh, I'm just starting out. Entry-level marketing associate." I saw the disappointment flash in Mom's eyes. Lisa jumped in. "And what about your family's business?" "We don't have a family business," Tom replied honestly. "My parents are teachers." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Mom's smile became forced. "Catherine, dear, can I speak to you in the kitchen?" In the kitchen, Mom's facade cracked. "Are you insane?" she hissed. "You had James, a successful, wealthy man who could provide for you, and you choose this?" Before I could respond, the front door opened. To my horror, James walked in as if he owned the place. He strode over to me, throwing an arm around my shoulders. "Hey, babe, miss me?" Tom stood up, his face flushed with anger. He ordered James to get away from me. Mom turned to him, her voice and eyes cold. "You arrogant, ill-mannered boy. How dare you come into our home and try to steal our daughter? Get out now." I'd had enough. I shrugged off James's arm and took Tom's hand. "We're leaving," I announced, my voice steady despite the chaos around me. As we walked out, I could hear Mom, Lisa, and James shouting after us. But for once, I didn't care. I was choosing my own path with someone who truly loved me for who I was. Despite the drama with my family, Tom and I went ahead with our wedding plans. The day finally arrived, and it was beautiful, almost perfect. The only shadow on our happiness was the conspicuous absence of my mother and sister. During the reception, I couldn't escape the concerned looks and whispered questions from relatives. I could see the confusion and concern on the faces of Tom's family. How could I explain that my own mother and sister had chosen not to come because they disapproved of the man I loved? After the wedding, Tom and I settled into his apartment, ready to start our new life together. For the most part, things were wonderful. We were happy, in love, and excited about our future. But there was one recurring nightmare: family holidays at my parents' house. The first Thanksgiving after our wedding, we decided to attend, hoping for reconciliation. Big mistake. As we walked in, I froze. There, sitting at the dining table like he belonged, was James. "Catherine," Mom exclaimed, her voice sickly sweet. "Look who decided to join us. Isn't it nice of James to come?" I saw Tom's jaw clench, but he remained silent. As we were cleaning up, James cornered me in the kitchen. "Hey, Catherine," he said, leaning in close. "Can we talk privately for old time's sake?" Before I could respond, Tom appeared, his face thunderous. He grabbed James by the shirt, pushing him back. "Stay away from my wife," he growled. Mom burst in, her face red with anger. "How dare you?" she shrieked at Tom. "Get out of my house, you—" We left, and I thought that would be the end of it. But every holiday, every family gathering, the same scene played out. James would be there, Mom would fawn over him, and Tom and I would leave feeling hurt and angry. The final straw came when I saw the social media posts. Mom and Lisa had shared childhood photos of me, pictures of James and me together, all with captions about how I had abandoned the family, how Tom was tearing the family apart. That night, I sat down at my computer and began to type. I poured out everything: the years of manipulation, the pressure to be with James, the constant undermining of my choices. I described how they had tried to control every aspect of my life, from my career to my love life. I explained why Tom and I had stopped coming to family events, detailing the uncomfortable situations we'd been put in. The response was overwhelming. Comments flooded in from relatives and friends, many expressing shock at what I'd been through and offering support. The tide of family opinion had turned. Where once there had been judgment, now there was understanding. Where there had been sympathy for Mom and Lisa, now there was criticism of their controlling behavior. After my big post online, I stopped talking to my mom and sister. I did talk to my dad, though, and he was really supportive. This made my mom really angry. She yelled at Dad, trying to get him to make me divorce Tom and marry James instead. Dad had always done what Mom wanted, but this time was different. He'd had enough. He shouted back at her and even gave her divorce papers. They split up, and Dad let Mom keep the house so he wouldn't have to pay her money every month. He moved out with just one suitcase. He had some savings, so he rented a place near me and Tom. Mom and Lisa predictably didn't take this well. Their social media accounts exploded with posts accusing me of turning Dad against Mom, of destroying our family. The psychological pressure was relentless. Unable to bear it any longer, I blocked their accounts and made my own profiles private. As I clicked the confirm button, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. At first, I thought it was just stress, but as the feeling persisted, a different possibility crossed my mind. A quick trip to the pharmacy and an anxious wait later, my suspicion was confirmed. I was pregnant. Joy and fear warred within me. Would this news finally make Mom and Lisa back off? My hope was short-lived. Somehow Mom found out about my pregnancy, probably through one of the relatives I hadn't blocked. But instead of reaching out with congratulations or reconciliation, she started a vicious rumor campaign. "Did you hear?" My cousin texted me. "Your mom is telling everyone the baby is James's. She says you've been sneaking around behind Tom's back." I stared at the message in disbelief, my hand instinctively moving to my still flat stomach. How could she stoop so low? The stress was becoming unbearable. Tom found me crying on the couch that evening. Without a word, he wrapped me in his arms, letting me sob into his shirt. When I finally calmed down, he gently lifted my chin, his eyes full of love and concern. "This has to stop," he said softly. "You need a break from all this drama. How about a vacation, just you, somewhere peaceful to relax and focus on yourself and our baby?" The idea was tempting, but I hesitated. "I can't just leave you to deal with all this." He smiled, shaking his head. "I'll be fine. You and the little one are my priority. Let me take care of you." Before I knew it, Tom had booked me a week-long stay at a serene country resort. As I packed my bags, I felt a glimmer of hope. A week away from all the chaos, a chance to breathe and center myself. It sounded like heaven. For the first few days of my vacation, I finally found the peace I'd been craving. The country resort was beautiful, with its lush forests and serene lakes. I spent my time reading, taking gentle walks, and just breathing in the fresh air. It felt like I could finally relax. But on the third day, my tranquility was shattered. As I walked into the resort's dining area, I froze. There, at a nearby table, were Lisa, her husband Richard, and James. My heart sank. This couldn't be a coincidence. Lisa spotted me and waved enthusiastically as if we were the best of friends. "Catherine, what a surprise. Come join us." I shook my head. "Please, just leave me alone. I'm here to rest." But Lisa wouldn't take no for an answer. For the next 2 days, she kept showing up wherever I went. She'd sit at my table with Richard and James, chatting and laughing as if everything was normal. She was constantly taking selfies of the 4 of us, posting them online with captions like, "Family reunion," and "So great to reconnect." I felt sick. I knew what she was doing, trying to create a false narrative to make it look like I was happily spending time with James. She wanted to cause problems between me and Tom. I texted my husband about what was going on. By the 5th day, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to cut my trip short and go home. As I was leaving my room with my suitcase, Lisa appeared at the top of the stairs. "Catherine, wait," she called out. "You can't leave. James is ready to forgive you. He says he'll even adopt your baby. He still wants to marry you." I felt a wave of nausea that had nothing to do with my pregnancy. "I'm not feeling well, Lisa. Please just leave me alone." I turned to go down the stairs, but Lisa grabbed my arm. "You're such a fool," she hissed. "Can't you see what's best for you?" "Let go of me," I shouted, trying to pull away. She released my arm, but the sudden movement threw me off balance. I felt myself falling, tumbling down the stairs. The world spun around me, and then everything went black. When I came to, I was at the bottom of the stairs. Tom was leaning over me, his face pale with worry. How had he gotten here? The pain in my abdomen was excruciating. The next few hours passed in a blur of ambulance sirens, hospital corridors, and doctors' concerned faces. Despite their best efforts, it was too late. I had lost the baby. As I lay in the hospital bed, Tom holding my hand, the full weight of what had happened crashed over me. The vacation that was supposed to be my escape had turned into a nightmare. My sister's relentless pursuit of her own agenda had cost me my child. In the aftermath of the tragedy, my grief turned to rage. The loss of my child was not just a terrible accident. It was the result of Lisa's reckless and manipulative behavior. With Tom's support, I decided to take legal action against my sister. The court case was grueling, but justice was on my side. Several resort guests had witnessed Lisa's confrontation with me on the stairs. Their testimonies, along with security camera footage, provided irrefutable evidence of her dangerous actions. The judge ruled in my favor, awarding me $10,000 in compensation. When news of the lawsuit reached my mother, her reaction was swift and harsh. She called me, her voice cold and cutting. "You've gone too far this time, Catherine," she spat. "Suing your own sister? You're no longer my daughter." The line went dead, and with it, the last thread connecting me to my mother snapped. Despite the finality of it, I felt a strange sense of relief. Tom and I decided it was time for a fresh start. We sold our apartment and bought a new house with a mortgage. We were careful to keep our new address a secret from my mother and sister. Only Dad knew where we lived now, and he promised to keep it to himself. The move was just the beginning of our healing process. I started seeing a psychologist, working through the trauma of losing our child and the years of family manipulation. Slowly but surely, I began to feel like myself again. As months passed, our life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Then one morning, I discovered I was pregnant again. Joy mingled with fear as I shared the news with Tom. "We'll keep it between us for now," he said, holding me close. "No one else needs to know until you're ready." We guarded our secret carefully, telling no one, not even my dad. I was extra cautious, following every bit of advice from my doctor. As my belly grew, we finally shared the news with Dad, swearing him to secrecy. The pregnancy progressed without complications, each week bringing a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Finally, after what felt like the longest 9 months of my life, our daughter was born, a healthy, beautiful baby girl. Life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. Our daughter Lily was now 6 months old, filling our days with joy and laughter. Tom and I had found our groove as parents, and with each passing day, the pain of our past faded a little more. One afternoon, as I was putting Lily down for her nap, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but something made me answer it. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "Catherine, it's your mother." I nearly dropped the phone in shock. Before I could respond, she continued, her voice uncharacteristically meek. "Your sister is here too. We need your help." I experienced a range of feelings as they described their circumstances, including pity, rage, and an odd feeling of vindication. Lisa had divorced her husband due to his financial insolvency. Their financial situation was severe. Mom said, "We need you to talk to your father. Persuade him to assist us. Additionally, you must refund the lawsuit settlement funds." Taking a deep breath, I prepared myself. "Sorry, but I'm unable to complete it. Dad is a self-made man, and the court granted that money. Do not contact me again, please." Lily began crying in the other room at that very moment. Mom's tone became abrasive. "Is that a young child? Do you have a child, Catherine?" I shut my eyes, regretting the time. "I do indeed have a daughter." "A granddaughter?" Mom spoke out. "You get away with hiding this from me. I insist on seeing her. I can't let you keep my grandchild hidden." Lily was fully awakened by her ranting, and her cries became louder. I became more enraged myself. With a chilly voice, I added, "You lost any right to be in my child's life when you disowned me. Lisa or you trying to get in touch with me will result in my filing for a restraining order. Farewell." Shaking hands, I hung up and blocked the number right away. Tom arrived lugging a fussy Lily inside. "Who was that?" he said, his expression showing worry. I embraced Lily and said, "My mother and sister." Their financial difficulties prompted them to ask for assistance. I declined. Tom gave a nod and drew us into an embrace. "You made the right decision," he murmured. I called Dad later that week to let him know about Mom and Lisa's predicament. He let out a deep sigh. "I am aware, my dear. I was also contacted by them," he stated. "I've been told by word of mouth that they were kicked out of their house. They currently reside in a quite impoverished location." I experienced a brief pang of sadness before resolve took its place. "Dad, they made their decisions. We must resist their attempts to entangle us in their drama." "You're correct," he conceded. "What's up, my little princess?" Upon informing him of Lily's most recent achievements, I was overcome with thankfulness. I had a supportive father, a loving husband, and a lovely daughter despite everything. We had created a loving, respectful life away from the drama and manipulation of my previous life.